they will be able to unmute themselves when they want to speak. Is that how that's going to roll?
Correct. You can also raise your hands in the reaction section at the bottom.
Yeah.
If we'd like to do that, or you can put questions in the chat as well.
Okay. Yeah, why don't we do raise hands, and that'll keep us a little bit more on point. So again, welcome, and I'm so glad you were able to see the piece, and we're just really interested. So I'm just going to sort of throw out a question to get us started. And I guess my first question is, how many of you knew about this play before you saw this reading beautifully directed by Kareem for Cold Read? Anyone know it? So this is new to everyone. Fantastic, but that's what Cold Read is, new plays. Great, 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 great. So why don't I do this? Kareem, why don't you tell us a little bit about your relationship to the play and some of the things that you discovered about the play in directing it?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I mean, I've had the pleasure of knowing Madhuri Shekar, the playwright, for a few years now. We both live in New York, at least part-time, and had met there and had some nice sort of getting to know you conversations. I've actually directed a workshop of another play of hers, which is called House of Joy, that Lapika performed in the world premiere of at Cal Shakes. Lapika, who played Sanam in this reading of Queen. So, and I've also read a lot of Madhuri's other work. So she's a writer that I've been attracted to and tracking for a while, because I think she writes really dynamic, sort of fully realized brown characters. You know, all of her work features, you know, really sizable, important parts for writers from the South Asian community. And I do a lot of work sort of promoting Manasa, which means Middle East, North African, and South Asian stories. So, you know, Madhuri and I sort of really fit together in that way. And I had known Queen before, and in fact had been asked to direct a small production of it in New York, which I wasn't able to do. So it was nice to kind of come back to it in this format with Syracuse Stage. And I just think she's a really smart writer. I mean, it's clear, and I'm really curious to hear from the audience members, you know, her writing really brims with a lot of like intellect and energy. All of her characters are really well-spoken and smart and astute about the things that they know, including, you know, science and poker and bees in this play. And I think it's just really fun to spend time with smart, intelligent characters. And, you know, those situations really start to come to life when it's kind of like watching like a really good legal story or a really good medical story. You might not necessarily understand every little bit of what's going on in the jargon, but you know they're talking about something really exciting. And in this play, they're talking about statistics and math and bees. So it's a great joy to get to work on her plays because her characters really come to life.
Thank you. And just to give a little more context about how this is coming to Cold Read as our under consideration play. And again, this is a play that Bob and I have been thinking about and have put out here and interested in your response. I first saw this play at Jiva Theater in Rochester, and I was very taken by it, and came back and reported to Bob that there was this really, you know, smart sort of play, and it's a mystery ultimately in it in a lot of ways, but it's got a lot going on in terms of its themes about women in science and working together and what they sort of must sacrifice to do what they want to do. And I thought that was really well handled by the playwright. She balances quite a lot, actually, in this play, but nor does it feel overstuffed. But I'll stop there and really interested to hear how the play all hit you. What stood out? What are some of the themes, ideas, images, moments that really they have made an impression for you with this play, if they have? Again, please use a raise hand feature if you can, if you know where that is. or general comments?
I think John's got his hand raised over here.
Oh, okay, John, please, yes.
Oh, hi. Thank you, Kyle. And I agree with you. I thought it was suspenseful. I even wrote down riveting at one point. The way I guess maybe 3 different stories kind of intersect, and each of them have, have their own suspense. I the one thing that I think I wanted a little bit more of was the concept of threshold effect. It seemed to be like an important concept in here. I didn't go back and watch the play again to see exactly how it was dealt with, but it was something that, and I'm an engineer, and involved and interested in the environmental like movement and all that kind of stuff. So I was engaged with this in a way maybe some people might not be able to in terms of the mathematics of this thing. But when the word threshold effect, it wasn't really. I didn't understand it completely, and it really is the linchpin, I think, of the whole thing with the mathematical model, and I'm sure that Ariel, she comes across as not one that really knows the math, so she certainly didn't understand it, but it almost seemed like, well, she understood what it was easily, and I didn't think it was explained very well there, although I could have missed it in just the one hearing of it. Let's see, the other sort of overriding thing that I wanted to say kind of is lost, but I'll mention, the subtext of it I thought was really good as well in terms of, and I saw this as in the sense of feminist play, and in showing that the world is changing and it's got to change because we've got these male characters that are total sort of idiots in a sense, and they've got the world and these women are taking control of the world. I was concerned about the reality of the story because so much of it seems sort of tied into fact, but I was wondering if it all is tied into fact and whether that's important or not. Maybe it's not important or not, but in terms of how this particular incident about this study gets raised, and was there is this telling a factual story or is it mostly fictional?
That's a good question, and I don't know all the answers, but certainly with naming Monsanto in the play is pretty bold, and this is the I think the basic ideas of the heart of the play, the mystery of the play, is in fact based in reality. That's my understanding. Kareem, do you have other ideas about that?
Yeah, my understanding is that the situation and the specific research that the scientists are doing in the play is all fictional, but obviously as Kyle was saying, the idea of the Monsanto pesticides being one of the possible major culprits for colony collapse disease, as well as just the setting and the world of the sort of research taking place in, the play is very firmly set in Santa Cruz, California, and I know that Madhuri has connections she's from Southern California, but has connections. So, there are, like so many wonderful plays, these glimmers of truth and real situations that a writer can then sort of create a fictional vehicle for those real ideas, which I think she's done very beautifully here.
Thank you, John. Who else has a question or a comment? Hi, Cal. Yes, hi. How are you?
Hi, Kyle. There lots of things were really fascinating. Obviously, I have university experience in the research world, and read a lot about what happens in higher ed around research fraud and things like that. But the thing that actually was the most compelling to me was I was shocked to find that I was actually rooting for her to consider marrying the guy. Like after that first meeting in the restaurant, I was like, he's such a douche. But it was really this compelling story of like underneath that bravado and that machismo, there was a person who was looking for a life. And there's a structure, a cultural structure that suggests that we shouldn't just be looking for the person that turns us on, but actually a person that we can join our lives to. And I felt like she was tempted. And I was shocked. I have to say, I was just shocked to find myself like kind of rooting for him in that last scene between the two of them.
You're a romantic. I love it. Thank you. Who else? Question, thought, comment? What stays with you about this play?
Kyle, you've got three folks with their hands up.
Okay, let me see if I'm seeing them.
You've
Got a Carol.
Carol and Bjorn.
Thank you, Carol. We'll hear from Carol. Thank
Hi,
you, Carol.
everybody. I'm just going to keep my video off if that's okay. I loved this play. As they say, I laughed, I cried. It had everything. And just like I believe it was Cal just said, the character of the boyfriend, I was ready to dislike him, but you know, you end up not disliking him because he's so. I love the turn in that. I love that he wasn't just one-dimensional. The acting was wonderful. Kudos to the actors in that difficult Zoom situation. I just loved it. It covered so much ground and it did it so well. I don't know. That's all I can say right now. Thank you so much.
Sorry. Thank you very much. Who else? Soumya, please. Hi.
Hi. I mean, I love Madhuri Shekar. I'm a very big fan of all of her work. But I particularly about Queen, I love how it's a very intellectually stimulating play. Like the argument of the play is very interesting, but it's also very engaging and like funny too at the same time. And so it really gets got me thinking a lot. Like the ethical dilemma isn't so like simple. It's very complicated, and it got me thinking a lot, but it was also very enjoyable. And I mean, I think my favorite part of the play is actually towards I think it's the second to last scene, when she rejects Arvin's proposal actually, because he doesn't want to move to California. And I thought that was interesting because so often with marriage, women have to move wherever their husbands go. And I liked that she picked her career and her project that she's been working so long on. So yeah, I really enjoyed this reading. I thought the acting was great as well.
Kyle, you're
Thank
on.
you. Yep. Thank you, Soumya. And Soumya is my intern. So it's nice to see you here. Bjorn, please.
Yeah, hi. I hope you can understand me. I went to the dentist today. I like the play very much. As Kyle said too, there were so many things that were treated there, so many plays within the play. So it was hard to keep them separate sometimes. But I liked the the problems that they were dealing with. You know, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a research analyst or anything of the sort, but nevertheless, I like something that sounds reasonable. And the problem sounded reasonable, and the solutions they had were simplistic enough so that sounded reasonable. So as a background, that was good. So then I could look at, you know, what they are trying to portray. I mean, the Monsanto, the research money and all this. And, you know, I could have easily foreseen a different ending. I mean, the one that her boyfriend suggested, for instance, that, you know, this is just research money. Don't worry about whether it's true or it isn't true. There's nothing you can do in any event. This is just business day by day. And that is something that I like, that idea. That could have been a good ending, basically, that, okay, now we go through all this, we have all this research, we have all these papers, and basically it's just business as usual. I could live with that. Instead, the ending, I don't know really what kind of an ending that was. Basically that, well, one new bee was born, one new queen was born, okay. Maybe if that had been tied together with Monsanto's news brief that they could, what was it, create new queens or grow new queens, something like that. Maybe that could be tied together, but it was a very good play and tremendous opportunities to go to support, you know, women in you know, having babies, not having babies, having a career, not having a career. That was very interesting. Mm. And although I don't see why it is an either or, but in this play it was, apparently. So I did like it. I like it. She is a fantastic writer. That I must say. Thank you.
Thank you, Bjorn. Rabia?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I'm the intern sister.
Oh, yeah, yes, I see that last name.
Yes. Yes, I love this play so much. I'm very glad I watched it. And for me, the most interesting part about it was this question of this, how it's so easy. Like, we all want a simple narrative for lots of parts of our life. It's not just science. Like, it's in so many fields, you know, like how many times have you told a story and you've like left little bits out because it makes you sound better, or, you know, it just makes it easier to tell, right? Even though that's not necessarily the truth of what happened. You know, I'm a caseworker right now and we have audits coming up and we're like not changing numbers or anything, but we're like, okay, gotta adjust this documentation to make it seem like we did it in November when we're really doing it in March, like stuff like that. Because the consequences, if, you know, we fail our audit, is we don't get funding and then we can't help a bunch of people, you know? So there's all this wrestling of like, you know, what is the truth and what is the right thing to do in terms of truth and accuracy and numbers, and is that going to contribute to a more moral or good world? And I think that those are two questions that we like to think they're always in line, but sometimes they're not. And I think that this play does a really good job at attacking that idea.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those thoughts. Toby.
Working on it. There we go. I loved it. I thought it was great. And so many stories and things, and feminism, women in work that, you know, okay, so we have 1 month a year for Women's History Month. We have less than a full month for Black History Month. And yet world history and history, you know, is every day. So why do we only have 1 month, short month? You know, that just kind of bothers me. My question would be as it's very different for a reading to kind of visualize what's up. I go to a lot of pitch of plays in Auburn. I go to all those series and I always ask this: what would you envision for this play? The set, the costumes, lights and sounds and all of that. What, you know, it's really hard to be on, as an audience member, to be on the listening end. You know, when I do audiobooks, I don't like doing audiobooks that require me to, I can't see anything. You know, I'm a visual too. So when it's only auditory, I need to see more. So what would that be as part of this play? What would it look like?
Yeah. I'm going to turn to the two directors that I know are in the room. Kareem, who directed the reading, and Bob, of course, who was our director here at Syracuse Stage. But Kareem, and you and I talked about this. We talked about this is a talky play, and that's not a crit in my book. I like smart plays where people say smart things. And thinking about, how does this piece gain theatricality? What thoughts have come across your mind as you've dealt with it? I'm sure I'm sure you were picturing it when you were hearing it and directing it.
Yeah, you always picture a play when you read it. I mean, at least I do. I'm a director, so I know when I'm attracted to a play when I can start to see it living on stage, and it is you just use the word theatricality, and it's a really interesting question for this particular play because it's a play that lives in a relatively naturalistic environment throughout. It's like there are these real places. You can very quickly Google UC Santa Cruz Department of, and you can sort of get a sense of what this world would look like if it was, a film. Theatrically, of course, you can't recreate every single environment that Madhuri is taking these characters to. We're in different apartments, we're in hotel rooms, we're in restaurants, we're at conferences, right? So then as a director, you're immediately starting to figure out, well, is there sort of a metaphorical idea, spatial idea that can sort of unite all of these realities? I love to always sort of think of space as metaphor, right? And do I have the perfect metaphor for Queen yet in terms of how it lives on stage? No, but that's what a really gifted scenic designer is for, What I do know is that, and we really experienced this in the very short rehearsal process we had, but for the character of Sanam, it's a freight train of a play. It just doesn't stop for that character, right? It is, she's in every scene, she's carrying forward the energy and the momentum. So sort of my directorial discovery and sort of seeing the journey that the character goes on is that you want to keep her relationship with the audience really strong throughout, right? You don't want it to feel, this is very much my aesthetic, I don't like the idea of, here's a scene, this scene ends, nothing is happening, now we're in another scene. It's the thing that's happening is Sanam is still continuing along her journey even as time is passing. So I think it creates a wonderful challenge for a team of theater makers, in this case, how does costume design work? She can't literally be wearing the same clothes, to the date and then to the office and then to the conference. But I would love to kind of keep that actor in the stage and keep this sort of dynamic flowing. So sometimes where I usually start in design process is with a complex theatrical problem like that. It's okay, if we actually keep that character, that actor on stage for the vast majority of the play, how do we transform the world around her? And because Madhuri has made it easy, this is very clearly Sanam's play. There's no doubt that she's the protagonist. So the energy of the play dips when she's not there. So we can't have her just go off stage for 45 seconds to change costumes. So it'll be a fun challenge, if the play moves forward to rehearsal, to production, because you want it to feel like a dynamic living space that Sanam feels like she's constantly inhabiting. And that's why I love theatrical designers, because they solve those problems. But Bob, I'm curious if you have any thoughts. I'd love to steal some of your ideas.
Well, you really nailed it. I mean, I think that I don't know that I can add much to that. You're very thorough. When I read the play and now when I hear it, Toby, I'm like you. I want to envision the world they're in when I'm hearing the words. And I always go to that, what's that visual sense? And I think that, what we have with Queen, this is a very episodic play, very cinematographic play. We get a scene, it's 2 minutes long. We get another scene, it's 5 minutes long. We get another scene, and all the scenes are in different locations. We're at an office, we're at a happy hour, we're at a restaurant. And so how do you create those scenes and keep, as Kareem said, keep the action moving? You can't send somebody off stage and change a set and start back up. The scenes are too short, there's too many of them. So you really have to create a world, a universe that speaks to the play, but allows us to move. There would not be a sense of full realism, because you've got to keep it moving from these different locations. We were in a similar situation, back in BC, before COVID. We were doing a yoga play, and we had already had it designed. And a yoga play is a similar structure where it moves from various locations very quickly. The design of that play, also we were thinking about how can we create something, and we ended up having parts that kind of moved backwards and forwards and allowed us to come into a scene, and then the set would move away from the actors and something else would move in. And so the set was moving more than the actors were. And that was solving some of the challenges that we had with yoga play. And I think we have a similar opportunity here. But I, just like Kareem said, I love, that's what makes working with set designers so wonderful, is that, we have some ability, just because we work with great people, to come up with some ideas. But then when you get a great set designer who comes in and says, well, have you thought of this? Or let me show you this world. And that's where all the light bulbs go off. And that's what makes that collaboration really exciting. Yeah, this set would want, this design team would want to be really creatively wonderful, to create a world that Queen could live in.
Thank you, Toby. Who else? Comments? And now that I know where to look for your hands raised, I am looking for them. Is that Kathy Kelly with her human hand raised? How fabulous!
Because I don't know how to do it on the
Bless you.
I'll figure it out. So there's so much to say about this play. One of the things that comes to my mind is the complete strength of the two females, and yet the absolute vulnerability. It was brilliant. The acting, how those actors can do that on a Zoom, and of course, the director, you deserve a lot of that credit. They're amazing. I feel that she kept us on the edge a couple of times. I was absolutely convinced that the professor was just going to go down a road, and I was like screaming at the screen. He's just gonna, and I'm so bad with names. He's just waiting to get that young woman, alone in his apartment after everybody else leaves, and it's going to be another Me Too movement or moment. And then it's skirted away from that. And there were several times during the play where I thought, this is the direction it's going. And then the writer just took us in a completely different direction. And I think it was just brilliant. One of my new favorite sayings is there are two truths. And I do believe that in life a lot. I was screaming at the screen during those very unethical moments in science. It was driving me crazy, actually, because there are too many papers that are published that, after peer review or after more research is done, it's not true at all. And they knew that it wasn't true, and yet they were still going to somehow publish that paper. And that was just making me so uncomfortable. But again, kudos to the writer. She did it beautifully. She just took me there, and then she took me back. So I think it's great. I guess I would like it if it was just a little bit shorter, but maybe on stage, in being in the presence, actually, it wouldn't have felt just a tad too long. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. Who else? Thoughts, comments? Comments on the play, comments on the comments? Anyone else? No. One of the things that I think is exciting about what I'm hearing, you guys you're picking up on all the many the many layers, and I know Bjorn brought up this idea of sort of the ending, and that this friendship is sort of it's not entirely restored. Some very hurtful things were said, right? When it seemed that the female characters began to operate in a sort of, how will I put this? A masculine aesthetic, almost. This sort of, they were sort of being sucked into the professor's sort of drive and need, right? And then there's that lovely moment where those alliances shift in that audience. I'm in that office scene, and now both of the women really all their power and what they have to offer, what they brought to the table, right? That their names have to be on this, on this paper, and we get that pathetic speech that he gave, a report of it. I think that's one of the things that I find so very interesting about how the playwright has constructed the play, and how that friendship, it starts there in that, at that party, and they're very good friends, and the journey of that relationship is, for me, one of the more satisfying things about the play. If others agree, disagree, or found something else that was particularly fascinating.
I agree with you, Kyle. I just want to say I love the friendship. That's, to me, is the heart of the whole. The play begins with them, it ends with them. They go through, some very intense experiences together that drives them apart, drives them back together. I mean, as you can see from the just fantastic performances that Lapika and Helen gave, they were able to create this, they weren't even in the same room, but yet they were able to create a real sense of like palpable human connection, which I can imagine will only be that much stronger when you can actually bring actors into the same space. So I think, to me, it's really it's sort of the secret of the play, that it, you think it's going to be a play about science, you think it's going to be a play about bees, and it's actually really a play about these two women and their very sort of beautiful, complicated friendship. And how it's tested, over the course of these events. And so I just think it's very exciting in that way.
Fantastic. Have other thoughts bubbled up?
I think Carol had her hand up, and Jenny
Okay,
had
Carol,
her.
thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So the very ending, when they're taking that bee hive apart,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, where is this going? What's going to happen? And then, of course, it's the whole play is encapsulated in the fact that this hive kills the queen, and it's their idealism was killed, metaphorically, during the play, and they've got a new queen, and they're going to go on. So I just love the way that symbolism kind of tied it up a little bit at the end. So
thank you, Carol. Kareem, have you seen a production of this play?
I have not.
I will say that the end, it's very, in the production that I saw, that final scene is, it is singular, at least it was in the production, in its design, because everywhere we were up to that moment was interior. And that the play ends outdoors. And this homage to nature was actually rather exquisite. It was a beautiful moment when we realized, oh, and the set divided and we were outside, and all that had been talked about, all that had been theorized, all that had been about data was now literally in their hands and buzzing. And that was it was beautifully poetic, actually. And it's the stuff late in the play that you remember first. And that really, I walked out of the theater with that thinking, oh, that's really, really lovely. So just in a way of thinking about that ending, not only what it actually says, but theatrically, at least in the production that I saw, how that was achieved, that they were, these women in nature sort of rebuilding if you think of their friendship as a kind of, a colony, they're rebuilding that too. And it was beautiful. It was really, really beautiful. Well,
Kyle, Jenny had her hand up a second ago.
Thank you. Jenny, please.
Oh, she says maybe not.
No, Fulton, okay. Lovely to see you. So if there isn't further, I guess I just want to ask a show of hands, and I promise I'll see them. How many of you would would be interested in seeing this play produced? 1, 2, most 3. Well, that's a goodish number. Applause. Take that. Hands up. I think that's the majority. I think that's the majority. That's fabulous. Do others have these hands up? So now, if your hands up is showing that you would like to see the play, you can put it away. But hands up for a question, please leave it, and I will call on you. Amy, Amy's going away. Nope, I think that's it.
Hey, Kyle, I'm going to say, I want to jump in with one thing about this play that hasn't been brought up yet that I thought was fascinating. So, to me, the other, the sort of, we have the ending of the play where we're talking about the queen and the queen being basically cooked by the other bees, right? And now it's time for a new queen. But what I think this is such a smart play in terms of the way it's structured. To me, it all ties back to the poker game. And the way that the poker game is described about the flip of the queen.
Yes, that's right.
And to me, the idea, she says, well, the numbers weren't there, and he says, well, I watched, the guy sitting beside the guy that I was betting against, and I could tell, he was talking about the human function of playing the odds and the human connection. She was talking about statistics. And then that's where the play goes to. Again, he also drives that conversation when he says to her, you care about your paper or you care about your friend? What's going to last longer and what's going to mean more at the end? So, there's so many interesting little twists in this play that, that I think were so very interesting and to continue to mine I see an image, I see a poster for this play that is the Queen of Hearts, and instead of the queen, it's a bee. So, but anyway, that just wanted to throw that out there just because it was on my mind.
Well, absolutely. Yes, Carol.
Sorry, just one more thing about the play that I liked. When he called her from Harry Winston's and he was looking at diamond rings. And I was thinking, because I'm reading a book about diamond smugglers and the whole De Beers thing. And when she said she didn't want a diamond ring, I'm like, yeah, you go, girl. I was so happy when that happened that the playwright was tuned into that, so I appreciated that. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Nancy. Nancy Byrne, is that your hand I see? Guess not.
I think she went away.
I think she went away. I'm sorry.
She's still down there. I think she just took her hand down.
Hi, Kathy Kelly.
Yeah, so also the line that was just so timely when he says something like, I don't know women in mathematics. And she said, well, I guess you don't know very many women, do you? That was just such a quick just jab that was so beautifully written.
Yeah. And also this message of sort of like trusting science, which felt, felt very, very now as well. Who else? I have there's a comment in the chat from Joanne. It says, lovely work by the whole team for making the story come to life on Zoom. Would like to hear about the research and dramaturgy to create the piece. And I suppose that's a question for the playwright who isn't who isn't with us. That information, I'm sure, can be sought. And Joanne, I'm happy to talk to you about leading you there. Any other comments on Queen? Oh, yes, Carol, please.
Me again, sorry.
I'm happy.
If any of the actors are on, maybe they could talk about their experience. I think I see at least one actor is on. So
absolutely. Lapika, would you like to add your voice? Hello. Thank you for your beautiful work.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. I absolutely love this play. Can you repeat your question specifically?
It wasn't really a specific question. I just wondered how you felt about acting on Zoom, what you felt about the play.
Yes. I mean, I have loved this play. I read an early draft of it when Madhuri was working on it. And so I sort of fell in love with the play then, but that was a couple years ago and didn't really have an opportunity to actually work on it. So I've been a big fan of the play for a while. I think that the way that she draws characters is so fascinating and rich. And I was, to be quite honest, super unsure of how this was going to go on Zoom. When I got the offer from y'all, I was like, oh my God, I love this play. Want to work with Kareem. Zoom. But we kept it so simple. It was, we truly just tried to stick to the basics because you really can't do much when you're each in your little individual boxes, right? So we tried really hard to stick with what was on the page and what wasn't on the page, character and relationship wise, to just simplify everything for us. And I feel like it was pretty successful on Zoom, at least relationship wise. I think we managed to get that really clear. I am very curious what this would be like to work on its feet in a true production setting.
Thank you, Lapika. Wonderful to hear from you. And again, thank you for your work in this reading. It was really, really stellar.
Thank you. I had a great time.
Anyone else? Yes, Kale.
I would say, to Lapika, I have found that with these more intimate plays, I've really enjoyed getting a close-up of the actors' faces, and it hasn't mattered to me so much that whether they're in the same space. And it is a little like the cold reading because that's in a more intimate setting already, because it's not a set, people sit on the stage together, but that ability to really watch your face the whole time, I think really does matter, and not be in any way invested in the surroundings, but really be invested in the performances. So I really appreciate your great work.
Thank you. And anyone else have a burning desire to share? I think that was a lovely discussion. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for supporting Cold Read. Thank you all for letting us know what you think about this play. Thank you for your great questions, your careful and your careful watching. It's really, really appreciated. Please, join us again when we, tomorrow's Friday. Tomorrow is, what is tomorrow? Right here. So join us tomorrow. We will begin to stream Evan Starling Davis's play, Madness in the Clearing of Blue. it's poetic. He's a local writer, a real promising talent, and I hope you'll give it a watch, and then join us and be in conversation with Evan about his play. But this has been wonderful. I only wish that we could be together in the theater. It's great to see your faces and be in conversation. But that day, I think, is coming. Hopefully, not too terribly long in the future. We'll see. But for this week, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you very much, Kareem, for your work in directing. Thank you, Lapika, for joining us. Bob, as always, my partner in crime, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for our next offering from Cold Read. Thank you for your support, and have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Oh, thank you. Oh, you're muted, Kate.
So's Bob.
Thank you. And I think this format is good for this.
Okay.
Yes.
So we can stick with this. If you ever at one point want to change back, I can change back to webinar very quickly.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Kate. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. If there's something, if you would like me to manage the questions in a different way, I have the ability to see all 50 just because of my, like, I have the ability to see up to 50 people. So if you want me to call on people, I can do that too.
Okay, yeah, let me think about that. I was, I wasn't seeing the hands because on the Colgate hand raise is a different one. And so I was looking for something different. It was kind of weird, but anyway, all fine, all good. It's that's a small problem. I'm not worried about that so much. But thank you very much. Really very helpful. And I was happy about how this went and how enthusiastic